Today, we will explore communication as a wolf pack strategy. Individual members of the wolf pack constantly communicate by nuzzling, biting, licking, playing, howling, and body language. As a team, we need to understand the value of communication, and as leaders of this team, we need to better understand why people follow. Communication for true leaders really comes down to one word. You see, Abraham Lincoln understood the destructive forces of the disease of me. He also understood the value of a culture of we. Listen to the 10 sentences of the Gettysburg Address from 1863. There is one word that Abraham Lincoln uses 10 different times. Listen carefully for that one word. 87 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of the war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who have gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember, what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who have fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from this earth. So what was Lincoln's one-word emphasis? One word, uttered 10 times in only 10 sentences. What was that word? We. Lincoln used we 10 times in 10 sentences during the Gettysburg Address in 1863 in front of a divided nation. You see, Lincoln understood the negative power of the disease of me. He also understood the positive power of a culture of we. So instead of placing blame at a time, frankly, when you look at politicians today, there would be many that would do exactly that. But instead, Lincoln focused on we. A house divided shall not stand. Lincoln understood that concept better than anyone in American history. And instead of placing blame, he was continuing to create a vision of a culture of we. When you communicate with your team, use the wolf pack strategy and think of Abraham Lincoln. Thanks so much for visiting EnthusiAdams.com, and I hope you'll come back next month for our weblog number 5 on the wolf pack strategy.